Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Farrar, and I just had a wonderful interview with the great Keith Andrews. I hope you listen to him on his next network podcast.
Whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. Never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are, who you're going to be. So prove to them, still amount to something. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the KeithAndrewNetwork, that is right. If you're watching on your computer, on your phone, if you're out in public on a big screen, the KeithAndrewNetwork is everywhere. Out on public on a big screen, on a computer screen, on your phone, on your iPad. The KeithAndrewNetwork is available anytime, anywhere, any place. If you have YouTube, the KeithAndrewNetwork, it's 24/7. Again, computer, phone, TV, laptop, anything and everything handheld connected to the internet, you can watch the KeithAndrewNetwork. That being said, you heard our recommendation from our guests. So the first question I want to talk to you, we're going to talk about something a little different. Usually we're going to talk about acting, but I came up with a new subject that I want to talk about. First subject we're going to start off with is social media. Can social media make you or break you? And the first question I want to ask you is how has social media impacted your career as an actor?
I think social media can be really valuable because you can let people get to know you on a more personal level. It's not always the, picture that was taken by the photographer. It lets you show that you're a real person. Really, we have flaws, we have, dogs in the background, we have, real lives. So I think it's really important that we can share that. Is it scary? Yeah, it's really scary that people can share this much of their lives. So I think there's, a line that you kind of have to draw between, a private life and a public life.
I don't know if you saw my questions already, and yes, I read a card, unfortunately. Some episodes I go back and forth, but it's funny. That's one of the questions I want to ask you. But no reason to jump ahead. Number two, can you share a memorable experience that you had from social media?
A memorable experience from social media. I mean, I think it's pretty special that I can watch people's kids from birth to teenage without having to physically drive there. Because I've got friends all over the country, and it would be difficult to every time a baby was born, get up and go. Whereas now I can, still meet your child, but maybe also meet them, in real life and not feel like I've missed a whole lot. You know what I mean? I think it's bringing people together in a really unique way.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's something I like about it. It isn't just a transaction. What I mean by that, you're not just on the show like, hey, I'm here to say my piece. Yay, I support people with disabilities. Okay, never see you again. When I do my interview, there's a connection. And I mean that, I swear to God. I extend my hand to you in friendship. You're making a new friend. For me, this is therapy because I'm socially awkward. So doing this for almost 11 years, I met a lot of great people. I met a lot of people that are kind of iffy. Met a lot of people that are like, yeah, they're a one-time thing. But I always extend my hand in friendship, saying it's a normal conversation. You're supporting each other. I'm giving you airtime. You're here to buy you're here to support people with disabilities. I'm having you on the show to make a new friend and support the people with disabilities. So it's a transaction. You're getting something out of it. I'm getting something out of it. At the end of the phone call, that's completely up to you if you want to keep in touch. But being completely honest, there is something more to the interview than the interview itself, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah.
So the
It's a,
next, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine.
So the next one I want to ask you is, can you share a interaction that you had with a fan? Either it was a good interaction, bad interaction.
I don't think I'm at status to like have fans outside of my family yet, but it was pretty special. My niece, she's like 12, and when all this started, I gave her my first signed headshot, and she's got it like framed in her room. And I just think that that's, I don't know, I'm big on family, and we're really big on supporting each other. So that just, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, my first fan, she's right there. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was kind of a special for me, at least. Um, but I guess growing up in Franklin, celebrities are everywhere. We went to school with their kids. It's kind of normal to run into famous like country music stars and people like that. So I hate to name drop because can't live there. You know what I mean? They're like, don't be telling people about Franklin. So, but I feel like it's a world I'd easily transition to because it's just about respecting each other, respecting people's privacy, respecting people's, public and personal lives. And I think that growing up being aware of that has been really helpful for me now.
I agree. And as my hero and idol, one of my heroes and idol, Bret the Hitman Hart says, doesn't matter if you have millions of fans, sorry, if you have millions of fans or a fan, never forsake your fans. Because it takes that one person and make an impression on.
Right. And you want it to be a good impression. You really don't get well, you never get a second chance at a first impression. You can always kind of grovel at it, but you really want to make the best first impression you can. So,
Do you agree or disagree that you have the first 10 seconds to make a good impression?
I think it's a little longer than that, at least for me, just because I like to be on the receiving end of a conversation. So usually, the first 30 seconds to a minute is me listening. So hopefully that is making a good impression on people that I'm an active listener and I'm not just trying to talk over you and prove that I'm in the conversation. I think there's other ways to be in a conversation than speaking.
No, I agree with you. Now, the next question I want to ask you is, what roles do you think social media plays in promoting your acting career and in connecting with your audience?
Social media can be a really powerful tool. And I think you have to be really careful with how much you share and what you share because people will nitpick every single thing you do, whether good or bad. You might be like, oh, I bought Girl Scout cookies today. And they're like, oh, well, high fat content. And you're like, oh my God, I bought Girl Scout cookies. Like, what I mean? It's just before social media, you really only had the opinions of the people directly, related to you or sitting next to you. And now it can literally be opinions of people you've never met, never seen, especially if you've got a public profile. People can, kindly say what they want. And sometimes it's not so kind.
No, you're right. And I give you an example here on the Keith Andrew Network. Our main focus is the talk show. But for younger audience members, like, I don't know, like for my niece, for an example, she's 10. For people who are 10 and up, are like, okay, well, you say your talk show is for younger audiences. What do you offer? Well, we do voiceovers, we do video challenges, we do human pyramids. So we have so many different varieties. So I'm not butchering that word. We had so many different things. It isn't just talking about people with special needs. You like voiceovers, there's Dumbo, there's Jumbo Book, there's the Human Pyramid Challenge. There's so many different subjects on the that's a good word, subjects on the Keith Andrew Network that I cater to everybody. It isn't just black and white. Oh, you interview people with disabilities. No, I show you with a disability, look at what I was able to create, and I have different subjects and a variety of videos for different type of audiences. So no, I do agree with you. And there's some things that are like, oh well, you're 36 and you like Dumbo or you like Jumbo Book. Oh, are you kind of embarrassed? It's like no, because if there's a certain audience that likes that stuff, then you have to cater to your audience. Let me ask you this question. Being a professional actress, is it hard building and catering to the right audience?
You know, I'd like to say it's almost the opposite, is that it's really easy to cater to the wrong audience.
Yeah,
So unless you have your goals in mind and your values in line, then you could very easily be taken down the wrong path. You know what I mean? A lot of people are yes, 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 because they want to be on camera. And I would rather be more diligent with choosing my roles because it's something that I want my family to be able to see, my friends to be able to see. Maybe not, 12 and under always, just, based on topics. But I really don't want to do anything that I can't be proud of
right.
in front, if that makes sense.
No, you're right. And it's like I said, I actually got turned down. I invited people to be on the show and they turned it down. And they always said, well, we don't feel like you're the right fit. And I was like, right fit. I had actors, actresses, models, CEOs, professional wrestlers, people with disabilities, people without disabilities. And what they all have in common, it's a normal conversation. And some people, and like you, you're an example. You're okay with that. You want to be on the show and support people and have a normal conversation. Other ones kind of like twist my arms, like we want to know the questions. Well, I don't want it to be premeditated. I want to give it the wow factor of, wow, I didn't expect him to say that. If I give you a list of questions, you're already had it A, B, C. I'm going to say this and that, and it's not going to be real. Do you
Right.
agree or disagree?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, that's live. You know what I mean? You want not surprises, but you want people to be able to give their, knee jerk real answers.
Here's a question you may find interesting. How do you maintain an authority and engage on your social media?
That's an interesting.
And if you
I
want, we can go to
try.
another question.
No, I really try not to put things out there that I am not fully passionate about. And if I'm fully passionate about something, then I usually can back up my beliefs in one way or another. I try not to be political. I try not to be, overly for or against any one person. But if I see that something is wrong in the world, I will speak up about it. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines. If there's an injustice that needs to be shared, and it's something that I believe in, then it's something that I'll share, because sometimes people just don't know what they don't know. Ignorance is not bliss in this world.
It's like actually it's funny you mentioned that one of my favorite cartoons is Dragon Ball, and there's a scene where Goku is just so oblivious. The grasshopper says to him, "You know, if ignorance was bliss, you would have it made."
Right?
So the next one I want to ask you, are there any challenges or drawbacks that you have faced using social media? Because you are an actor, so I guess you want to be in the public eye and be a public figure. But is there any challenges and drawbacks that you were mentioning before?
I mean, there's always going to be drawbacks to being a public figure. People can very easily figure out where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, and they can unfortunately try to manipulate future situations. So you have to be really careful about who you let into your inner circle and who you really trust with knowing what's going on in your life. So I just think I think as much as people want to know everything about everybody, having a private life is actually pretty important. So I'm going to try to maintain that as much as possible, as I am here in my living room talking to you.
No, I agree with you too. You know, it's always good to have a balance. But well, let me ask you a follow-up question about that. How do you balance a personal privacy with social media, and how do you well, let me ask you a two-part. That's kind of a long question. How do you balance a personal privacy on social media when sharing aspects of your life with other people? Apparently, you're in your living room. That's why I send people my background so you look like you're in the studio. But everyone can do whatever they like. But I mean, from my point of view, if I had a nice apartment, I live at home. If I had a nice apartment, yeah, show it off. I don't care. I have nothing to be embarrassed about. But what do you think?
It's funny you ask, because I almost always sit in this exact same spot. I'm not one that's like, walking around the house. I like for this to be what people know about me and my home life. And then the little dog will pop up every once in a while. But I think it really is important, to maintain some sort of animosity, even if you're not trying to be a public figure. You know what I mean? Like sometimes see people on Zooms and I'm like, wow, I can see where your kids go to school. I can see, just based on what's on the back of their fridge behind them. You know what I mean? And I'm like, wow, you're really just putting it out there, aren't you? They all go to, Hickson High School, and, one of them's in the elementary school. Like, I feel like people really don't take into account what's around them all the time and what people can gather. And the fact that you might be in London, you might be in Manchester, Tennessee. You know what I mean? Like, it's really a scary world that we live in, and it's gotten so much smaller because of the internet and us being able to video chat and things like that. It's a little scary, if you ask me.
It's a good thing you mentioned that. I want to ask you a bonus question. But for me, I think the internet should be regulated. Number one, Facebook and any other social medias, you have to give them your ID. You have to tell them who you are. If your account gets banned or if you do something stupid on there, then the hell with you. By giving them, not saying, hey, this is my personal information, but in a way, if you have a Facebook and say, this is who I am, and your account gets banned if you said something stupid, then people can't make duplicate accounts. For an example, I have a friend named Velvet Sky. There's thousands of people impersonating her. That should be a felony. To impersonate someone and try to steal their identity,
Mhm.
that should be a felony. So I do think, yes, the internet should be regulated. And my parents say the best thing invented was the internet, and the worst thing was ever invented is the internet. Do you agree?
It's definitely a double-edged sword. And it's funny that you kind of mentioned the hacking thing. 'Cause I had my identity stolen on Facebook about 2 years ago, and getting it back was almost next to impossible because I was having a hard time proving that I was myself. Because whenever you sign up for the account, they don't ask you all these questions. So whenever you're doing the account recovery and they're like, oh, well, let's see your driver's license. And I'm like, what are you comparing it to? Like, what, to what end? You know what I mean? Which obviously it got resolved after 30 days. 30 days. I was locked out of not only my personal account, but 2 business accounts I ran. So it was like, I really need to get this back. I don't know. It's like I said, I love it, but I hate it. It's kind of like a 70-30. It's not a 50-50. It's like a 70-30.
Yeah, absolutely. And your dog agrees. Is it a he or she?
It's a he. That's Winston. He's my
Hello,
little,
Winston.
hey, hi, Winston. He's like, oh, he's talking to me. he was my pandemic puppy. So his life on Zoom has been, pretty much life on Zoom. He knows when to be quiet and when to walk away.
He's a Shih Tzu, right?
He's actually a Havanese.
Oh, he's really cute. I would like one.
I know where you could get one. I'm just kidding.
So the next one I want to ask you, has social media given you opportunities to for acting? Like what are some of your what oh, there's a two-part question. So by using social media, as you mentioned, going back to our conversation, yes, you should be verified, and it's really good because once you're verified, no one else can take that. And it's always good to have your security features on. Double a fart. I almost said fartication. It's like, what is fartication? There, you get a number on your cell phone, type it in. No one else would have access to your cell phone, but you just put your security settings on max and say it's better to be overprotective than just saying, whatever. But social media should only be for people who want to can contact their family, be in touch with their family, obviously, but they should also have it for business, for people who wanted to create a talk show, to be in the entertainment, then that's great. Anything other than doing it for making a statement or getting into the entertainment world or whatever, they're just being in contact or like we're doing now. We're now friends. Being in contact with friends, it's fine. If you're just gonna use it to screw around or hack something, then there should be penalties. There should be a fine. There should be repercussions. But that's the problem. They don't regulate the internet, so it's kind of like the open wild west.
I agree. And you also don't necessarily know if, like, let's say, I mean, I'm a couple years out of high school, but let's say that someone has taken one of my high school friends' accounts and is posing as one of them. Like, you know what I mean? There's just not enough transparency to where I can go, I know that's you, and you know this is me. I've only got like a 95% assurance. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no guarantees, but there's no guarantees in life either. So, I mean, you could say the same thing about someone you meet on the street that you think's the nicest person ever, and then you find out 2 weeks later they're a murderer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm so I mean it's kind of like taking people face value to the next level just because you can see so many more faces now.
So the question I wanted to ask you before is, what opportunities have you received from using Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? Do you feel these open some doors for you normally compared to how we used to do things?
I think so. I think that it's making the opportunities a lot more visible to the talent. I feel like it used to be back in the day, producers and directors and casting directors had this, finite group of people that they kind of shopped from. And now they've got a lot bigger pool of people just because of accessibility. Since when would a girl from Chattanooga, be talking to a national radio syndicator? I mean, things like that just wouldn't have happened before the internet and Facebook and YouTube and all these other options.
No, you're absolutely right. I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up, I want you to be brutally honest. I have no cards on my sleeve. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what made you say yes? How do you feel now? And would you recommend it to other people?
I mean, honestly, I love talking to people. So, regardless of the background, I was interested in, meeting with you and meeting another person in the industry and seeing how we could connect. I think it's a wonderful opportunity that you're inviting people that you don't know onto the air and seeing what we may have to say. I think that's almost more of a risk on your part than on mine. I mean, I might make for dull radio. You don't know.
That's true, but I always like to be the type of person that gave people opportunities. But the question I'm going to ask you is, how do you feel now, and would you recommend it to other people?
Oh, totally. I mean, you seem like a super nice person, very easy to talk to. I'm obviously technology challenged. So, and I don't think that you could have done that any better for me. As far, you know what I mean? You said the link, I can't click on a link. I don't know. But I think you're very patient and very kind. And I really don't feel like you're trying to do one of those, gotchas, which is prevalent in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And now stay tuned for we have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping
Okay.
up, if you're watching, everyone is obligated to leave a comment, tell us what you like, what you don't like, what subjects we should talk about on the Keith Angie Network. But our goal is to reach 500 views. 500 and more views is our goal. Once we reach our goal, we will reach episode number 2. But until we meet again, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. So until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you and have a good night.